Well, hey there, hobby homesteaders. Welcome back to Peaks Peak, or should I say, welcome to Piney Grove.
Piney Grove. We're not at Peaks Peak today. We're actually in North Florida. And look what we found out here on our property at Piney Grove.
Right, so we are on vacation, and today we're going to talk to you about things that you need to do around your homestead to prepare for a vacation, because you can't go off and leave 80 animals without some kind of plan. So guys, I just got home from Panama City Beach, Florida, where we had a nice vacation, but I'm glad to be back on the farm because, I'll just be honest with you, it's hard to take a vacation when you've got a homestead and about 80 animals to take care of. Part of the reason it's hard is because the work piles up while you're gone. I can tell you that I started making plans for this vacation and getting things ready for us to be gone for a week about a month in advance by trying to time things in the garden to where I could have most of my canning done and caught up by the time the week rolled around that we were going to be away, talking to friends who would be able to come by and feed the animals. And of course, when you have this many animals, there's a lot to be familiar with. So it's not just like, you know, stopping by and emptying the litter box and pouring a little food out for the cat. There are different needs for different animals. So you have to have somebody who's familiar with taking care of the animals to be able to do that for you. Before we left on our vacation, we were able to get 51 quarts of green beans canned and put away, but we still have beans growing like crazy in the garden. So I actually talked to one of the neighbors and told them they were welcome to come over and pick some beans if they wanted to while we were gone, and anything they picked they could have or can or do whatever they wanted with, but I just didn't want them to get away from us and go to waste. Now, our corn wasn't quite ready to be picked before we left, so I've got corn that needs to be picked. Of course, there's the whole timing of all that work to try and get that done. And then of course there's the mowing. Now, mowing trails and mowing around the pond and all of those things, I don't do that every week, but they were getting kind of tall, so I had to get that caught up before we left. So I had to mow the trails and around the pond and all of that. But also, when we're going to be gone from a Saturday to a Saturday, well, our yard definitely has to be cut every week or it gets tall and thick. So I had to time that to where I mowed it the day before we left, and then the day after we returned home, I had to cut it again, and it was very thick to get that knocked down. So there's the timing of all the mowing and all that. And in the meantime, it seems like the weeds in my pasture have really shot up while I was gone. We got a lot of rain and a lot of sunshine while I was gone, which is the perfect mix for growing the weeds really well in the pasture. And I have some that are taller than I like for them to be with my cows running in here. So I'm probably gonna have to put the bush hog on and get out here and set it at a high setting and knock those weeds down just so they're not so tall around the cattle. Now, of course, if you have a farm or a homestead, you know that you also have quite a bit of equipment and quite a bit of expense tied up in that equipment. So you wanna make sure that your place is secure. So there's a lot to think about when it comes to security. So I'm gonna let Brad tell you a little bit about that. This is Brad from Piney Grove. All right, so since we're here with Brad at Piney Grove, and he's developing his homestead here, but lives almost an hour away from his property. So I thought it would be good to fit in here and talk about things that Brad does to protect his property while he's away, since he can't live on the homestead.
Yeah, Lucas, so that's a very good point. The very first thing we thought about when we bought this property was, you know, the security aspect of it. We live on a paved road here, and you could just come from that paved road onto our property. So the first thing we did was put a fence up across the front here for security. And of course, we have a locked gate and we have cameras on our property. So that's what we do to secure our property, because we can't be on it all the time.
Definitely important aspects. All right, so Brad, tell us a little bit more about your security here on Piney Grove.
So one thing that we found, you know, you got to have tractors, you got to have equipment when you have a homestead or you have any kind of acreage, and you don't want to really leave that stuff outside, right? It's valuable, and it's fairly easy to start and cart off, right, for someone to hot wire your tractor. So one thing that was very important to us, besides getting the security on the gates and the fencing around our property, was also getting some sort of building that we could put our equipment in and lock it up. So if we turn around here just a little bit there, Lucas, you can see behind us, we have our mega shed back there, what we call our mega shed. But it is a place for us to put our equipment so that we can keep a lot of our equipment here on site and it's secure.
Yeah.
And another thing with security is you want to have inland marine insurance. So just in case all your security efforts are defeated by someone that wants your stuff, then you can fall back on your insurance and hopefully recover your losses if you have them.
Yeah, that's a good point there. And I actually have the Kubota insurance on mine. But another thing I like about your buildings here on Piney Grove is you have plenty of space to keep all of your equipment in out of the weather. So even your rotary cutters and your box blades and all of that stuff is in out of the sun. So I feel like it's going to retain its value better when you're keeping it inside and keeping it from sun fading and all that as well.
Yeah, definitely. You got the paint fading, you've got the rubber and all those seals and everything that will deteriorate from the sun. And we got some harsh sun down here in Florida. We're called the sunshine.
Absolutely.
We're called the Sunshine State for a reason, and you know that after spending a week and
Yeah.
probably putting on a lot of sunscreen.
Yeah.
So in addition to the actual tractors and the excavator being inside, we also can keep our equipment inside. And nowadays it's really hard to find equipment, so you don't want anybody carting your equipment off. That's for sure.
That's exactly right. So in addition to some of those things that Brad talked about, we actually had a friend from church house sit while we were here because we have a dog that we wanted to be taken care of and let her stay at home. So she stayed here, took care of the house, and kind of watched over things and took care of the dog as well. But she's not a farmer, so I wasn't going to ask her to try to take care of all the farm animals and do that kind of work while we were away. I've mentioned before I have great neighbors, and so I tried to let some of them know that we were going to be away and keep an eye out. And actually, you know, the fellas that work across the road, they keep an eye on the animals. They're farmers. They're familiar with animal activity and things to watch out for. And we actually ran into a problem that they spotted and gave me a call while I was away. It's always the worst timing when you have an animal get injured or sick or any of those sort of things. And that's exactly what happened to us while we were gone. I got a call from one of the fellas across the road, said that your goat has been up on top of the hill, not coming down to eat or drink for the last couple of days. And he just kind of stands up and sits back down. So I knew there was a problem. Of course, I was 800 miles away, so there's not much I could do about it. But he graciously offered to go up there and get the goat and bring it back down, make sure it had water, and check it out. And it turns out he had some foot rot going on, which needed to be addressed. He actually came back after work and trimmed his hooves just a little bit and cleaned them up and dipped them for me. And then we were able to, once we got home, to really address that, clean it out and treat it with medicine and give him some antibiotic shots and get him taken care of. But that's something that probably, if I had been really keeping a close eye on him, I might have been able to spot before we left. But I just didn't notice that there was a problem, and so it really set in while we were away, and he got to where he couldn't get up and down the hill. I hated that, but I sure was thankful for my neighbors keeping an eye out and spotting that so that he didn't just die up there on the hill. And even though our animals behaved pretty well most of the time, our ducks had never ever been out of the electric fence before until we go on vacation. And my brother-in-law, who was taking care of the animals and doing the feeding for me, he texted me and he said, hey, a couple of your ducks are out running loose, and they don't normally, and he knew that, so he wanted to know how to get them back in. So I had to kind of give him a little rundown on what to do to chase them back in, and it turned out to not be too big of a deal, and they went right back in because they were afraid of him. But it just, things happen while you're away. So when you ask for somebody to take care of your animals, it needs to be somebody who's either willing to come around and get used to your animals so they know what to look for and what to keep an eye out for. And you know, we actually had a couple of chicks born while we were gone too, and so my brother-in-law noticed there were some little babies running around. He checked on the duck situation because he knew that they weren't normally supposed to be out running around, and he actually had texted me the evening before the fellas across the road noticed the goat not coming down off the hill and said he couldn't find him, he didn't see him. And so he was already kind of clued in that there was something going on with the goat, and so he was on the lookout. So all of them together were able to make sure that all of my animals stayed alive while I was gone. And that's why it's important that you ask someone to care for your animals that's going to put in the effort to pay attention to their needs and do the things that they need while you're gone. So all in all, it's just not easy to take a long vacation. When you have a homestead and you have 80 animals and you have 38 acres to take care of, there's a lot to be done. So not only do you have to ask for a lot of help from your neighbors and friends in order to keep things in shape and make sure that your animals stay healthy while you're gone, but then you also have a lot of extra work piled up on you when you get home. And when I got home, I was a little bit overwhelmed with the tall, shaggy yard and all the weeds growing everywhere and the animal with a bad hoof and all those things that needed to be taken care of. But we are getting those back in shape, and we're getting back on track here. This is just one more aspect of homesteading that a lot of people don't think of when they think that they want land or they want animals. You have all of these extra variables to think about. If you like to travel, if you like to take long vacations, then you've got to figure out ways to make sure that everything's taken care of while you're gone. But I can also tell you that it is important to take vacation time, especially to spend time with your family and do things that they enjoy doing. We had a lot of great time on the beach and a lot of great fishing with my boys, and I'll share a few clips of all the things that we got into while we were away. And then we also got to visit Brad at Piney Grove, which was exciting. So it was great to have a vacation. All right, guys, well, I appreciate you all watching the video. I hope you learned a few things that might help you out in taking care of your homestead and being able to plan a vacation for your family. Appreciate Brad for letting us stop by Piney Grove. If you're not a subscriber to Piney Grove Homestead, go and check him out. Brad's got a lot of great footage of him building his own homestead, setting up the buildings that he's got, and how we met was because he had his pond built and has had a little bit of leaking issues like I had.
A lot of leaking issues, Lucas.
But that's how we became friends. So go check out his channel. He got great content over there.
Yeah, so thanks for coming by, Lucas. We really appreciate it. It's been great meeting you. We've known each other for a while and we talk every day, but it's been really good meeting you in person. But hey guys, we appreciate you watching this video, but I'm gonna get Lucas on this L-Series tractor and get some mowing done before he heads back home.
Oh no. Nice to meet you, man.
Take care.
Oh man.
I'm gonna need pliers.
Yeah.
Caden!
Caden, come here. Nice job, buddy.
What is that?
Remora. They're like a sucker fish.
Yeah.
They're fun little fight though.
Let it go. Oh! Yeah.